Well, it may be the only part of the US-Russia relationship that actually works. The new Strategic Arms Treaty, or SMART, has been in place for just over 4 years now and has already made substantial cuts to the nuclear arsenal of both sides. But of course, the current negotiations between the US and Iran has become a major talking point this week, thanks to the controversial address to US Congress by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who of course is opposed to the deal. Barack Obama's chief negotiator on the treaty is Rose Gottemoeller, Under Secretary of State for Arms Control and International Security. I asked her whether she was disappointed in the way the Israeli Prime Minister had politicised the talks.
I think it's most important to focus on what my boss, Secretary Kerry, had to say about the deal, is that we don't yet know what its full contours are. It's still being worked out at the negotiating table. And the fact is that there will be some extraordinarily stringent monitoring and verification measures associated with it as we look at placing constraints on Iran's nuclear program. So I would say that to those who are jumping to judgment on it, that it's important to wait until we see what the results are. But I think they will be good ones.
It's such a delicately poised region, though. There'd be many players that would want to be assured that Iran won't develop nuclear capabilities.
I think that it will put a lot more predictability into the situation. It's been very true that over these many years, even as sharper and sharper sanctions have been imposed on the Iranian economy, nevertheless, the Iranians have been able to expand the program of nuclear enrichment to 20,000 centrifuges. So we really need to put the brakes on these efforts, and I think the program will be effective in doing so, and in fact will put a lot more predictability into the whole situation, and that will be important moving forward. Not only will brakes be put on the program, but it will be scaled way back, and so the time that it would take for Iran to get to a nuclear bomb is going to be extended considerably.
If I can bring you closer to the region where you have great expertise, and of course that is dealing with Russia. You spoke today about Russia's blatant disregard to the rule of law when it comes to Ukraine. How complicated is that making the situation there?
We have been very concerned. Russia historically has been one of the greatest supporters of the rule of international law. I know it best in the world of arms control and non-proliferation. They were one of the originators of the non-proliferation treaty regime, and so it's quite concerning to see now disregard for important international legal principles such as sovereignty and territorial integrity. In fact, Russia was one of the originators also of the basic principles that are part of the OSCE, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. This was an important foundation for Europe's security at the close of the Cold War. Territorial integrity and sovereignty was at the heart of that foundation. So it is quite concerning to see what is going on today in Ukraine. And I think we hope, of course, that Russia will move forward with the Minsk peace process.
And of course, there's some irony because you are comforted by the progress that has been made on disarmament more broadly with Russia through the SMART project. It is at odds with the way they are behaving in Ukraine.
Yes, it's been quite interesting, but you know, there is a history here that when we have been pursuing strategic arms limitation and reductions now over approximately 45 years, we have been pursuing them in a way that has really been kind of walled off from other crises in the relationship. And this is the tradition now with being carried forward with implementation of the New START treaty. So Russia has been very pragmatic, very problem-solving in its implementation of New START. And as in our previous discussion about Iran, it's very important to see that kind of predictability contributing to both security and mutual stability.
Let's talk about the pivot to Asia, which of course is of great interest to Australia in this change of direction as far as the US is concerned. What practically are we seeing happening?
It's fascinating for me to hear all the questions as I've been here in the Asia-Pacific basin about the pivot to Asia. Is it really going to happen? Is it going to be effective? I say 100% yes, because I can see already the changes that are happening in our decisions about deploying military forces going forward. By the end of this decade, by 2020, the majority of U.S. naval and air forces will be deployed here in the Pacific, Asia-Pacific basin. And the pivot to Asia, for that reason, I can say, is real, although, as I like to underscore, sometimes it takes time for substance to follow a policy declaration. And in this case, the policy declaration and commitment is very clear, but it takes time for the substance, that is, for the actual military hardware to arrive here. So I absolutely see the pivot to Asia as a real thing.
Rose Gottmuller, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.